Hello, good morning and welcome to the video. My name is Michelle Wills and it's Monday morning. It is around 8:30 in the morning and I want to talk about today this article which appeared on YouTube. It's from the Racing TV channel, as you can see, but it was on YouTube yesterday, and you can see a list of topics there: dodgy business, bowing out, gone fishing, regrets, etc. But we want to talk about dodgy business, and more specifically about these corrupt bookmakers. Now, this guy is a racing expert, Nick Luck, I believe he's called. He's been on Channel 4 for yonks. He's well respected in the industry. So this ties in with an announcement or statement Andy Burnham made during last week. So let's play, and I can obviously play snippets of this. I always keep them to between 20 and 30 seconds due to copyright. So let's hear what he says.
And we begin this week with Lee Modset and Simon Holt, with Lee, that what appears to be assault on the betting industry, whichever way you look. Recommendations to increase machine gaming duty, recommendations to row back on the aim to permit legislation. All that combined with huge rises in taxation on remote gaming duty. And these even major corporations are going to start listing, or they're listing already. And racing's finances are going to be holed below the waterline.
They are.
So there we are. I'll just have to pause it there. So basically, Andy Burnham, the Prime Minister, has said he wants to clean up the high street, get rid of all these vape shops, these fake barber shops, which seem to appear everywhere. There's a lot of debate whether they're a front for illegal goods, drugs, etc., tobacco, under the counter, as we used to call it. So this is talking about the Mr. Burnham saying he wants to wipe out or give councils more powers to exclude these shops, including bookmakers, from the high street. And I agree, because the bookmakers themselves have turned these places, these bookmakers shops, into just casinos, basically. And what I mean by that is a bookmaker, if you go back, let's say, back to the 80s when I first started gambling. And in the 80s, we had obviously bookmaker shops, and it was like a community. You would go in, and there'd be like 5 or 6. I can always remember I used to go into my local bookies on a Saturday morning, and we used to have dog racing from Hackney and Crayford. And they were, I believe, 11 o'clock in the morning. Hackney used to start, and they used to have, I think, 8 or 10 races from each meeting, finishing around 1:15, 1:30. And then I used to, when my local football team were playing, Torquay United, go down and watch Torquay United in the afternoon. It was a fun time. We had a good laugh. We used to, with my friends and I, used to chip in and have like multiple bets, all of us paying a proportion. So it was like if the 3 of us did a lucky 15, a pound lucky 15, then, we 3 of us would chip in £5 each, you know what I mean. And we used to have fun, we used to have coffee, the staff were wonderful. It was like a community. And this is what Miss says on Miss Talking Points on YouTube. This is what it says. As I say, I can't play too much due to copyright issues. But that has changed. And that changed, I guess, when bookmakers tried to become casinos. And that was in 2001 with the introduction of these fixed odds betting terminals. And each shop was allowed 4 of these machines in them. And in the early days, you don't see them so much. They used to be, wherever you went in the country, the bookies would be full of Chinese people, Chinese or people, foreigners, I'll say, who used to put hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds into these machines. And the bookmakers changed then, and so horse racing used to be the main asset. It's now these machines. So they're not bookmaking shops, they're casinos. And then, of course, as time goes on, I've talked about many times, made many videos about the affordability checks, which were brought in by the bookmakers, not by the Gambling Commission. And I must stress that all these affordability checks happened when William Hill got into trouble with the Gambling Commission. So I'll just look up for that piece. So here I have here an article from the Racing Post, and it's entitled "William Hill Hit with Record £19.2 million Penalty by Gambling Regulator." That's the UK Gambling Commission. So if I scroll up, I believe this was 2023. So we go over to there. Hopefully you'll be able to see that. I would enlarge it. So this was published on the 28th of March 2023. What's that, 3.5 years ago roughly. And updated on the 29th of March, the following day. So what is this about exactly? Well, let's go into this article. And I'll enlarge it so you can see it. William Hill had been hit with a record £19.2 million penalty by the Gambling Commission, but have escaped having their licence suspended by the industry regulator. So basically what happened was it's just the article. I won't read from the article. You can just go on to YouTube. I'll go onto the internet and see it for yourself. But basically what happened here was that it involved 2 customers who signed up for just get that into focus a bit more. They signed up for a online William Hill online casinos. One guy lost, I believe it was £70,000. So a new customer opens an account and loses £70,000 in a space of less than a week. And another customer signed up again with William Hill, and they lost 20k. So a lot of money, and William Hill did no checks on them. So what happened was that bookmakers began to panic. According to the Gambling Commission, the UK Gambling Commission's website, it says that it seriously considered taking away William Hill's licence to run bookmaker shops or online, because in the UK, that's how serious they took it, due to mainly money laundering. When you're talking about figures of 70,000, and 20,000, it's a lot of money, isn't it? And we needed to do money laundering checks for that amount of money. So which is understandable, and I accept. It has to be done. And William Hill failed, and nearly lost their license. So following that revelation about William Hill, bookmakers began to panic. And this is on the high street as well as online. Now, on the high street, Betfred, I say, were the first ones, to my knowledge, who started in each shop. I believe it was the top 10 gamblers, shall we say, top 10 spenders. For example, I was one of the 10 in my local Betfred shop in Dawlish, and I would turn over anywhere between £2,000 to £4,000 a week. Yes, that's a lot of money, but I must express that is turnover. That's not winning, that's not losing, that's how much I would spend, okay? So typically I would never go into a bookmaker shop with more than £300 cash in my pocket. I would go to a cash point, I'd draw out £300, then go into a bookies. Never. So if I lost that £300, that's it, gone. So I would normally play with the fob tea machines, play roulette and other games, and most of the times I was quite successful, so I used to place bets. So for argument's sake, if I went in on a Monday and with my £300 and I hit a jackpot on a fob tea, so I put £200 in, won a jackpot. So I've won £300, okay? So I get £500 out of a machine, plus the £100 in my pocket, because I took out 300 and only put 200 in. So I've got £600. So I've doubled my money. I would then use that part of that £600 I would use to gamble. Let's say I would spend £300 on the horses, on horse racing bets, okay, for example. So in doing that, I have turned over £200 in the machine and £300 in horse racing bets. So my turnover for a day is £500. I haven't won £500. I haven't lost £500. That's my turnover, is £500. Okay. Don't forget, I've still got the £300 I came in with in my pocket. So it's cost me nothing. Okay. It's cost me nothing. But it's still a turnover of £500. And that's what I mean by turnover. And of course, if all my horse bets lost, I would still be level. Anything but won on horse racing bets would be profit. And then you go in Tuesday and do the same thing again. You go in, you put your £200 in the machine. Let's say you win £150, so you got £350. So you got £350 on the machines. Plus you got your £100, so you're £450. And so I would spend £150 on football bets on a Tuesday night if there's a lot of football. So again, you can see the turnover there: £200 in a machine, £150 on a football. So that's a turnover of £350, and yet I'm still walking out of that Bookmakers with my £300. So I have turned over in 2 days £850, okay, but it's not cost me a penny because of the wins, okay. And then let's say the horse racing bets on the Monday, the £300 return £200. Let's say the football bet £150 returns £50. Okay, so you're talking about in most 2 days, I am £250 in profit. So then when I go into the Bookmakers on a Wednesday, I don't have to withdraw money from a cash point. So because of Monday I've drawn my 300, so I don't have to do it on a Tuesday. I don't have to do it on a Wednesday. And that keeps going. But of course, there will be a time when my maximum limit of cash out of my own pocket is £300. So once I lost that £300, that's it, finished, kaput, no more until the next day. Okay, and if I had 2 or 3 days, which does happen, when I lost £300 each day over 3 consecutive days, I would cut it out for a week or several days. Okay, so, and that's how turnover works. You know, it's, so on average, if you're turning over £4,000, yeah, you're probably spending, if you lose, you're probably spending no more than, or losing around £500 in a week. Okay, it's a lot of money, yes, but that's turnover, not profit, not loss. That's turnover. So why then did Betfred start giving people like me, who gamble like me, who don't lose a lot, but they are the highest turnover customers? Because they asked, certainly for me, the letter I was given, addressed to dear customer, it explained they've been monitoring me for 365 days, the letter said. And December 2022 this was. And it said that my gambling activity was above the norm, whatever the norm is. And so they said I could not bet until I produced a photo ID, driving license or passport, bank statements they wanted, source of wealth, etc., etc., you know, which I was not prepared to do. And the Racing Post did an article on this. Let's see if I can find the article. So here we have the article, again from the Racing Post. This is entitled Gambling Review, and it says, punters barred from betting shops after failing to meet affordability demands. So we'll scroll down to see the date of this. So there's your typical bookmaker shop. So again, I'll enlarge this. So as you can see, this was published on the 29th of January 2023 and updated the same date. So I'll shrink that again. And we'll go through this. So I'll scroll it up. And let's have a look and see. Punters are increasingly finding themselves denied entrance to betting shops if failing to provide bookmakers with detailed personal financial information, shining further light on the growing reach of intrusive affordability and source of funds checks. Online gamblers have increasingly faced requests from bookmakers under pressure from the industry regulator, the Gambling Commission, for personal documents such as payslips and bank statements to allow them to continue betting, with accounts closed or heavily restricted if these requests are denied. However, bettors placing wagers in retail outlets are also being hit with demands for proof they can afford to bet, while one betting shop employee spoke to by the Racing Post said staff were under increased pressure over the past 12 months to seek information from their customers. So that's the year 2022. Okay. So I'm now going to scroll up. Requests for authentication and financial documentation to continue betting resulted in Michelle Wills, yes that's me, being stopped from betting in a local branch of Betfred. She has claimed, after she was unable and unwilling to provide the information. In a letter to Racing Post, she said, "I'm 58 years old and have enjoyed gambling all of my adult life. On entry to my local betting shop in December, so that's December 2022, I was given an envelope from a member of staff, and I was shocked to discover a letter from Betfred starting, 'Dear customer.' The letter said that I was not allowed to gamble in any Betfred shop in the UK until I provided photo identification, namely a passport or driving license. Unfortunately, I have never had a driving license, and my passport expired over 20 years ago. In addition to this, the company wanted 3 months' worth of bank statements and a source of funds. After considerable consideration, I decided not to send my personal information, and therefore I've been able to gamble in Betfred shops. I've lived in Dawlish since 2008 and am well known by the staff of the shop, but I now have to travel to another town to gamble." So that's my story. I contacted Racing Post following my ban. Now, it's important, I'll just scroll this back up again. It's important to verify that this is not, I repeat, this is not the doing, or was not the doing of the UK Gambling Commission, because I've contacted them numerous occasions about this, and it's not their doing, it's the bookmakers. And it's because, and this is what numerous people have told me from the Gambling Commission since 2022, they've told me that they're running scared. So, for example, with Betfred, I'm not sure about the other bookmakers, they all run a similar policy. They're all asking for ID. Because Ladbrokes in, I believe, February, March of 2023, they banned me for the same reason. Then, if you see my videos, the beginning of this year, 2026, was it the 4th or 5th of January, I received a letter banning me from William Hill stores for the same reason. And about a month, 3 weeks ago, sometime in July, late July, I walked into a coral shop in Exeter and was effectively banned, told I needed ID. So now I'm banned from all coral shops, all Ladbroke shops, all Betfred shops, all William Hill shops. I'm banned from, because they want source of wealth, they want photo ID, they want bank statements. And this, I'll emphasise again, is not the Gambling Commission putting them up to this. This is these bookmakers running scared. And I contacted head office of Betfred to make a complaint, because somebody commented on YouTube after I left a comment on a casino streamer's site, and they used my address. Now, I never gave my address. Dawlish was my address. And what I complained, obviously, that I believe that Betfred staff had given my name, obviously, and my address to the company, which is just not on. They say they didn't. But I was in conversation. It was difficult to get hold of this woman, the area manager. I forget what her name was. And she denied that. She said the staff didn't do that, but somebody did. But during the conversation, she told me that what Betfred were doing was they've been told to give their 10 highest turnover customers, and I explained at the beginning of this video what turnover is. It's not what you win, not what you lose, it's what you spend. So 10 in each shop were given this letter. And according to the Racing Post, I won't search this article, but it may actually be in here. I'll just scroll down to have a look. If it's not in here, then I won't go to it. So here again, we go to the Racing Post. I have found a link. New affordability campaign launched as survey reveals 2/3 of punters would be unwilling to provide documents to continue betting. So this was again a Racing Post article. Let's have a look when this was published. This was published recently. So I'll just enlarge it there so you can see the date. This is published on the 8th of April 2026. So a recent article. So this is what this article is saying about these affordability checks according to the Racing Post. So we'll scroll up. There we go. 2/3 of punters would be unwilling to provide documents such as bank statements and payslips to continue betting. A new YouGov poll for the Betting and Gaming Council (BGC) have revealed. Of more than 2,000 people surveyed last month, 65% said they were unwilling to hand over personal documents. So 6 out of we'll go with low figure. You can't have 6.5 people, obviously. So 6 people. So we'll go back to a Betfred scenario. 10 people, including myself, given these letters, and 6 of those people won't provide the information. So they've lost that turnover. And let's say, for argument's sake, those 6 people have a turnover of, I know mine was between £2,000 and £4,000 estimated. These are all estimated figures, of course. So let's go down a middle graph. We'll say 3,000. So they're doing that 6 times. So that shop's lost £18,000. And this, what I'm going to say now, is no disrespect to the small punter. You know, the lady or gentleman who goes into the bookies on a Saturday morning and, you know, places does a 10 pence win lucky 15, or, you know, someone who would go in on a Saturday morning and pick out a £2 football accumulator. You know, no disrespect to those people, but, you know, those people are no good to bookmakers. And that is the reason why you're finding that these bookmakers are losing money on the high streets in many of their shops, and they're closing stores. We know William Hill closed over 200. Betfred are threatening to close over 100. Paddy Power threatening to close a load. All these bookmakers are threatening, you know, William Hill have shut. Timoth, Newton Abbot, Torquay have had shops shut. So it's nothing to the Gambling Commission. It's these bookies running scared. And since my exclusion from Betfred in December 2022, I know of at least 30 people have been given these letters and don't go. So they don't gamble, or they don't gamble in those shops. And don't forget, I am banned from Betfred, Ladbrokes, Corals and William Hill now. All because of this. So these bookmakers have shot themselves in the foot. And you may ask yourself why, and I often did. And it was someone from the Gambling Commission who actually told me this. Because if you remember, in May, I had a dispute with William Hill. I had placed bets in the summer, so we're talking June and July, in William Hill shops around the country because I went on holiday. So some were in Sussex, but most of them were in Devon. And these bets were anti-post football bets, so placed before the 2025-2026 football season began. And then you're talking about 6 months later, beginning of January, they banned me. And of course, when I went back in May to pick up my football bets, they refused to pay out. I mean, I ended up taking legal action against them before I received the money I was owed. Absolutely disgraceful. They took my money. They didn't even offer me money back. They took my money and they asked me to provide documents that don't exist. So please have no sympathy for these bookmakers. It's just they're running scared over William Hill fine. They have turned their places into casinos. Violence in bookmakers is off the scale. I know since the being banned from Betfred in December 2022, I have seen in four different betting shops, I have seen these fob team machines, someone lose a lot of money, I guess. I wasn't paying attention, obviously, and they had smashed one or more of these machines to smithereens. And we never used to get that. You used to get, customers arguing, about not being paid out or paid out the wrong amount, whatever, but not to the violence it's got. So these hubs, if you've got net luck, says in his article I started at the beginning of this video, he talked about being community hubs, him and his guests, which is true they were. They're not anymore, they're just ruthless casinos, They're not very nice places, if I'm honest, bookmakers. You couldn't, like you in the old days, sit in a bookmakers now for 3 or 4 hours, have a few cups of coffee or tea, whatever, and have a laugh, watch your horses lose one by one, or your dogs or whatever. Those days are gone, long gone. We're not community hubs. They're just evil places, and so that part of it is gone. So, in summary, these bookmakers are not being forced by the Gambling Commission. The only thing the Gambling Commission has said is that if people like myself, they should do what we call light touch reviews. And one thing that I find annoying is that I've been gambling since the age of 16, 1980. Yes, I know I was supposed to be 18, but and with these fob tea machines, which came in 2001, so 25 years they've been going, and me spending what I spend, in these fob teas, not one member of staff in any betting shop in 25 years on these fob tea machines, or indeed ever in every time I've been to bookies, not one single member of staff has come over to me and said, Michelle, or if they don't know my name, am I alright? Am I okay? Do I realise I've been playing the machine for half an hour and I've lost £250 or something like that? It just doesn't happen. And I've never seen it happen to anybody else. And people get angry, they shout, they spit at these machines, and the staff don't intervene because they're told not to intervene by their hierarchy, which is disgraceful, which is disgusting. So that is the bookmakers side of it. So I want to now go on to the online casino side. So I'm going to focus on these cowboys, these charlatans. Bet MGM Casino. So, I believe worldwide brand, but they do have a license by the UK Gambling Commission, so they can offer services for UK customers. Now, last evening, I decided to test the waters. So Sunday evening, I decided to test the waters. So I signed up to this casino, and during the signing up process, it went on to say about the identification, and it said at some point we may ask you for identification, and then it listed driving license, the passport, the proof of income, the school, or the stuff they asked for. So I completed a sign in, and I managed to click in and got my welcome offer. So here we go. So this is an email that was sent to me. Welcome to BetMGM UK. So have a look at so Sunday, August the 16th, 7:45 p.m. So 7:45 yesterday evening. I signed up and was welcomed by BetMGM. So let's see what it says in this email. Don't forget, this is licensed by the UK Gambling Commission. So this is what it says. Welcome to BetMGM UK, the new golden era of sports betting and online casino. Michelle, before you experience everything we have to offer, we would like to share some important information with you. As part of verifying who you are, in future we may require some documents showing us to verify your identity, address, payment methods, or source of income. More information is available here. Our customer support team are available 24/7, blah blah blah, and it goes on. So have a look at this important information. So this is email they sent me. As part of the verification process, we may require some documents in the future. Not now, not today, not before making a deposit, in the future. Such as documentation that can verify your identity, documentation that can verify your address, documentation that can verify your payment methods, documentation that can verify your source of funds. The time at which we may request any of the above documentation will be dependent on your activity and our own internal procedures. These documents will be required to be provided electronically and reviewed prior to being accepted. Failure to provide any required documentation may result in restrictions being placed on your account. So that's pretty clear, isn't it? Now, I'll just highlight the important parts I want to talk about here. So, they don't want the documentation now. They want it at some time in the future. Documentation, they're asking for the, there you go. So, in the future, not now. When we decide. And of course, when we decide, you know when they decide. So, if I was to last night deposit £100, say when I opened this account at 7:45 last night. When I opened this account last night, I put £100, there'll be no questions asked. If I won, let's say I double my money, and £200, and I went to a draw at £200, I can guarantee you 100% they would ask for identification. So let's have a look to see what the Gambling Commission say about this. So we've gone to the UK Gambling Commission to see what they say about when a casino must ask you for this ID. Okay? So the UK Gambling Commission, this ID and financial verification. All online gambling businesses, including the one we're talking about, must ask you to prove your age and identity before you gamble. So before you make your first deposit. And that clearly is not the case with the bookmaker we're talking about. They are saying that, in the future, they're saying. So they are breaking the terms of their license. Our rules say that a gambling business can ask you to provide your age and identity as a condition of withdrawing your money if they could have asked you at an earlier point. So I'll just read that again. This is a gambling commission. Our rules say that a gambling business can't ask you to prove your age and identity as a condition of withdrawing your money if they could have asked you at an earlier point. Again, all online gambling businesses must ask you to prove your age and identity before you gamble. If a gambling business needs more information before you can withdraw your funds, for example, for anti-money laundering checks, then they should ask promptly and not only when you want to withdraw your funds. So that is perfectly clear and straightforward, and that, as I say, comes from the UK Gambling Commission. There we go, the UK Gambling Commission. So that's straightforward. So as I said, these clowns at BetMGM are breaking the terms of their license. We've gone through all the ID there. It says there, as part of verifying who you are, in future we may require some documents. In future we may require some documents. But the Gambling Commission rules are clearly, they must before you make your first deposit. That is quite straightforward. That is quite clear. So these charlatans are breaking the terms of their license. So I contacted the on here you have a there you go. Here you have I'll just have to enlarge that a bit. You can go on to the Costa Sport team, the medal 24-27, via live chat or email. So I went on to the live chat and I said to them that I don't have any photo identification, i.e. I don't have a driving license, I don't have a passport. And first of all they said, well, we're not asking you to provide any ID at this stage, what they said. Then I said, well, the Gambling Commission states that you must request that information, said information, before I make my first deposit. So then the person, I was speaking to a live person, allegedly. First of all, we on to an automated bot, or whatever you call them. I call them bots. Answering questions. Then it said they'll put me through to somebody. But when I was having a live chat with a human being, and that's what they said. They were not asking for documentation at this stage. Obviously, we know why, because they want me to deposit, lose hundreds, thousands of pounds, and then, if I'm fortunate to have a win, when I end, we want some ID with me. I mean, that is how they work. They are going against their license. So when I then said I don't have a driving license, I don't have a passport, they in live chat said that I need a driving license and a passport. Documents that don't exist. Obviously this mirrors the William Hill saga, in May when I tried to collect on football bets. Then when I sort of argued, They just terminated the live chat, just terminated it. When I said, well, your license terms state that you must ask before a person makes a deposit. They didn't just terminate the call. They insisted, as I say, during the conversation, that only a driving license or a passport were acceptable. So these clowns at BetMGM said I need to apply or get myself photo ID. So a full driving license, they won't accept a provisional one, they told me. A full driving license, a first license, I've never had a driving license before, will cost me £119. A passport, those are the only two forms of ID they said they would accept. Photo ID, this is. Full driving license or UK passport. A full driving license is £119. A UK passport was £102. And what don't they get? I mean, let's say, again, we'll go to the £100. Let's say I deposited £100 yesterday in their account, which would have been illegal under their license, because the Gambling Commission says before I can start gambling. So before you deposit, they should get all the ID they need. So I've deposited £100 and I've managed to win £100. And I decide I want to withdraw the £200. Now, I can bet your bottom dollar, because it's happened to me so many times in the past, they will ask for the ID then, at the point of wanting to withdraw. And those cite money laundering rules and regulations. So, are they seriously expecting me or anybody else over winning £100 to pay £119 to get a full driving licence, or £102 to get a UK passport? They're taking my piss, aren't they, surely? Absolutely ridiculous. So, therefore, in theory, put £100 in, won £100, I want to draw my £200. So, applying for the driving licence, I'm going to get back £81 less, and UK passport, £98 less. It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. That just shows you the way these charlatans, these bookmakers work. And I'm sorry, but they are so bent, they are so corrupt, these bookmakers. I say they're all at it, they're all the same. All these casinos, they do it KYC. No, not KFC. KYC, know your customer. But the Gambling Commission is very clear. You must do it before you're allowed to deposit your first. And I asked them, and they told me something. No, it says it here. It says it. We've been for it. So I'm afraid, I'm with Andy Burnham. These bookmakers, high street bookmakers and online bookmakers, are rotten to the core. They're corrupt. It's all a scam. It is ridiculous. And with William Hill bookmakers, when I had that dispute, they told me I could get a citizen's ID card. Now, for those of you who don't know what a citizen's ID card is, it's a card which was designed, I believe, 10 or 15 years ago for youngsters. So someone around, it was supposed to be for the someone who's 18. So you could go into a pub and drink alcohol. That's what it was designed for. You could buy alcohol, drink alcohol, etc. You could go into adult venues, 18 plus venues, such as the Bookmakers, for example. You get one of these citizens cards, so if you're lucky enough to be 20 years old but look 16, you get challenged by a member of staff, and you produce a card. And I thought, well, yeah, that's not right, but £15 isn't a great deal. But then, on the citizen's card, it tells you that obviously you need a photograph. So to get a photograph, because I shopped around, I went to actual places and these mobile machines, photograph machines I have on railway stations, post offices, etc. And you're talking about £10. So £15 is now £25. Then it also takes you on a referee. Someone in authority. It can be your local vicar, priest, whatever you want to call them. It can be someone, your bank manager. But most people don't. I mean, do you know your bank manager? Are you on friendly terms with your bank manager? Most of us certainly aren't. I don't even know if my bank manager's male or female. I don't want to know. It's none of my business, And the only person on the list which I could possibly use, because they have a list of people they call referees, and someone who could vouch for you, confirm they know you, and confirm your identity. And it had on it your GP, your doctor. So I went up to my doctor's surgery and I explained my situation, that I was applying for a card, and I needed a referee, and it says on the leaflet, the brochure, that I can use a doctor. Yes, that's not a problem. Yes, the doctor will do that. Oh, by the way, there will be a fee of £40, £40. So suddenly the £15 for the which looked attractive for the citizen's ID card has now become £65. It's a total rip-off. A citizen's ID card was not designed to use to be able to gamble. A driving licence was not designed, its purpose is not to gamble. The UK passport's purpose is not to gamble. So these bookmakers, don't feel sorry for them. Don't feel sorry. I feel sorry for those people losing their jobs. But I hope every single bookmaker on the high street shuts. I do. Because they are corrupt. They are rotten to the core, these bookmakers. They are purely evil, selfish, greedy bastards. So that is it's a rather long video, over just under an hour, but I wanted to get that across just to show how corrupt these bookmakers are, and how they ignore even the terms and conditions of a license. Hence William Hill getting fined. I believe Betfred got fined, was it? 850,000 by the Gambling Commission a few weeks back over money laundering rules. They're all at it, like I say. Don't feel sorry when they're crying, oh, we've got to close all these shops. It's a load of tosh about the increase in, when you see Fred Dunn, or Doan, whatever, how he pronounces his name, the founder of Betfred with his brother, in the Sunday Times top 10 people in the UK richest list, fortune in billions of pounds. Don't feel sorry for these people. Feel sorry for people losing their jobs. So thank you very much for watching this video, and please feel free to leave any comments in the comment section down below. And as normally I say, I don't make any excuses for the poor quality of a video. It's literally me holding a computer tablet up against a laptop. I don't. I'm not a filmmaker. I don't have the equipment, and I don't intend to get the equipment. I just make these videos when it's topical, and obviously with Andy Burnham's speech or his comments earlier this week, stating that he wanted to get the these vape shops, these barber shops, which obviously hundreds and hundreds have been raided and closed, illegal workers, people being paid under minimum wage, etc. And he included bookmakers, as the scourge of the high street. I agree with Andy Burnham. They are, certainly, the way we're behaving, the way we're acting, the way we're treating their customers. They are the scourge of the high street. So thank you once again for watching this video.